Okay, so the poem we're going to look at today is Ozymandias, which is actually a poem written by Percy Shelley. Now, Percy Shelley was a romantic poet, however, he came quite a bit after the poets we have looked at so far. So he was actually born in 1792 and died in 1822. Okay, so there is a bit of a difference in the dates for Shelley, Blake and Wordsworth. However, they were all still romantic poets. Okay, remember that is romantic with a capital R, not a lowercase r. So it's romantic in the sense that they valued nature and they tried to fight against the encroaching powers of science and technology and the disparity between different classes at the time, both working class, upper class and middle class. Now, Ozymandias is actually quite an interesting poem. It's a little bit different to the poems we've looked at so far. Not only is it written later, but the speaker is quite different. So, the speaker in Ozymandias is not Percy Shelley. Actually, in a way, you could say it's two different people. So we start off with speaker 1, who is this unknown narrator. Okay, so we've got the unknown narrator. Then we move on to number 2 quite quickly. So we actually move from a first unknown narrator to our second narrator within the first 2 lines. So it's quite a quick transition, which means the majority of the poem comes from the second narrator's point of view, okay, from their perspective, who is this unnamed traveller. Okay, they are introduced actually in the first line, but in the second line they begin talking about their tale, okay, so where they have travelled to. Now, this poem is also set in the 1800s, so it was written in 1817 and is also set in 1817. It's set at the same time. Okay, it could be quite interesting later on when we are looking at the poem to think about maybe why Shelley decided to set this poem at the same time that it was written. A possible reason for that could be that in 1817 the British Museum were actually having a fragment of an Egyptian king, who we're going to talk about later, sent over to the museum. So they were having this Egyptian king, who actually his nickname was Ozymandias, sent over to the museum in this year. So that could be a reason for why Shelley has made the poem more contemporary, more set at the time. All right, so there's some basic information about Ozymandias.